Hello and welcome to Console Shock episode 71, Retro and Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev, and the man, Big Sexy himself, Stu. How's it going, Stu?
Yeah, Big Papa Pump here.
Big Daddy Cool.
Big Daddy Cool. I love you. Do you know what, Trev? I love your radio voice.
It's you know what?
When you do your intro, can you announce the competition winners for me?
You're joking about this, but my dad, I don't know if I mentioned this
I know what you're going to say. Yeah,
he's
you mentioned
a
to me. I
DJ.
don't know if it's been on here before.
He was a real life. He was a DJ on local radio back in Essex, and even on I don't know if this means anything to anybody, probably not. But if there happens to be any baby boomer types listening, hopefully do appeal to a broad group of people. But he was on Radio Caroline, the sort of famous pirate radio.
Oh, the pirate, yeah.
Not in the sort of the heyday of the 60s and the 70s, but near the end of the 70s and the early 80s, right at the end of its sort of time when it was around. He was on it, and he was on local radio in various places, mainly in Leicester. He was the one that I always sort of tell people, because they're a bit more like, oh yeah, really, was it was the resident DJ at HMV in Oxford Street.
Oh wow!
So they didn't just play now they just play music in the background, don't they? And maybe there's a voiceover, but it's just pre-recorded. It's not some bloke in a shed does it and emails it to them, and then they just play it on a playlist. And it's probably been like that for about the last 20 years, really, isn't it? But in the late 80s and early 90s, he was. There was actually a studio in HMV in Oxford Street. So literally, the shop, HMV, the sort of the biggest one in the UK. I think was the Oxford Street one. Is it still around? Is it closed?
I think it's closed.
It's probably closed, isn't it? HMV's still a thing. It's still around, but not to the degree it was then. But anyway, there was an actual studio in there then, and they'd have an in-store radio station. And he was the DJ. Unfortunately, I've inherited his very Alan Partridge sort of DJ voice.
Well, that's quite an achievement. I think I remember Virgin Megastore. I'm sure I remember when I was maybe 17 or 16, went up to London, and I remember seeing the DJ booth. And that could have been HMV, or it could have been Virgin Megastore, which was further up Oxford Street.
Yeah. I think it was for bigger stores, especially ones that focus on music. I'm sure they're probably Our Price and Tower Records probably had them, but they'd often have a real DJ, person who'd probably be all 3 or 4, I suppose, for the 8-hour or 9-hour day they're open, and literally it'd be its own radio station that would broadcast to all the stores. So now, obviously, that's unheard of. It's just a video, a music file being played.
It's probably Spotify.
It's probably, to be honest, they even bother with it. I think some stores do have a radio station. I can't remember. It was something lame like Wilco or something I was in. And that had an actual bloke who was like, hey, this is Wilkinson's radio. Well, thank you for shopping with it. And I was like, oh, wow, that's actually made an effort to put links and stuff in between. But it was cool for me because as a kid, my dad, working in HMV, he would kind of get first dibs on, new movies that were coming out on. Well, then it would VHS. I remember we got the first episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation when it came out on VHS in 1988, because they didn't start showing that on TV till 1990 in the UK. It had already been going for 3 years by then. That's how lame it was for us, wasn't it, in the UK, getting American shows. Now it's the same day, isn't it? But then it was literally years.
Years. It had to really prove itself, I think, in the States. Then ITV and Channel 4 and BBC
which have
pick of the best stuff. And
that's right.
But then the good thing about that is we didn't get loads of rubbish.
No, we kind of get their cherry pick, wouldn't they? The bits.
Yeah. So you got stuff which was this is really good, and you just didn't get the random, I don't know, just garbage American sitcoms and endless police dramas.
Yeah, there was a finite amount of channels, of course, and even with Sky coming in, so they couldn't just put any old crap on there. They had to be a bit of a filter, whereas now you can just put anything, really. Not that there's any price to pay for that, because there's so many channels, there's enough to go around to be able to show every bit of crap that gets produced. But but the one interesting thing was that often, like for a TV show, especially something big like Star Trek: The Next Generation, they'd often get the VHS releases would be way ahead of of it being shown on TV, sometimes by years. So obviously, the company that produces the TV series, they often had like a home video department, didn't they? So they'll just whack those episodes on VHS tapes. Often, like I said, way before it would be shown on TV. But yeah, I remember he got that and brought it back home to watch, because I was already vaguely knew about Star Trek then. I was only about 5 or 6, but my dad used to watch the original series on the reruns on BBC Two. So he probably bought it. He bought it for himself, to see. I want to see what this new Star Trek show is like. And I remember watching it. I thought it was crap. It was like really boring. It was like, and to be honest, if you I
totally agree with you, Trev. To be fair,
yeah, I can't. I know you're not famous for being too much of a Trekkie, but
no,
it wasn't. It's not a good first episode generally. As someone that is a Trekkie, it's probably one of the worst out of all the series that there's been. So yeah, it didn't bode well. Obviously, it got way better and became awesome, as the years went by. But yeah, he would get the videotapes and really early and get discounts on them, of course. So we'd be able to get those, and also video games. He'd have people come into the studio to like review games that they're going to be selling in the shop, and he'd even get sometimes they'd even show talk about imports. So I remember he told me about like the PC Engine GT and stuff before I even saw this stuff. I'd see it in a magazine as well later on, but he would actually, someone would come in and show him, and he'd be like, there's the Game Boy. Well, I've seen this thing that blows that away. It's got color screen and the games are on little cards, and I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. It's 300 quid, so you're not getting one, but yeah, yeah.
So when he was on Radio Caroline, was he actually out in the English Channel somewhere on the boat?
Yeah. I think it was just off. I think they're off somewhere. Was it Essex?
I don't know.
Off the coast of Essex. But yeah, there was literally on. You had to live there. Basically, you couldn't just commute back and forth. You basically had to live there. So my dad. This is when I was very young. Was when I was like a baby up till about 3 or 4 years old. He would literally be there for months on end. It would just be me and my mum back at home. This is when I was born in Leicester, and that's where I spent my first few years. So yeah, and then he would come back. But then I think probably the fact that he had to leave for months on end, he probably thought this is too much. Now I've got a family, so that's when he got the job. Exactly. He got a job at HMV, and he sort of bounced around local radio. So yeah, there you go. The episode is about my dad working in radio now, apparently. But yeah, it was great. I say when he was at HMV, it was great for getting first dibs on videotapes and DVDs, video games and stuff like that. Oxford Street HMV. Because that was a pretty good place to get that stuff actually until well into the 2000s. I remember they used to do really good DVD deals, didn't they? You'd get they do 5 for 30 quid or something, and
yeah, they had loads of good deals. I remember all the deals they had on PC games and PS2 games, and that was the days we used to actually sort of buy new games and you wait for them to come down in price. You wouldn't necessarily get a second-hand game. That was a sort of a bigger thing then, and I used to love going, to HMV, and then that was, of course, in the days when, you go there and you go, actually, I want to get a really, a good album. You have a good look through, and it was just, it's almost the way it's much better now how you consume music. Of course it is. But back in the day, getting an album,
exciting, wasn't it? You'd have like a shopping day, wouldn't you? Where you go out on a Saturday if you're a little kid with your parents.
Yeah,
and you really,
town. Yeah, really choose, which album you wanted. And then I remember you used to listen to whole albums. Where now it's more, I won't say it, but I'll say, okay, please play New Order, and then it will just play random.
It's kind of a throwaway thing now.
You lose the focus on. Actually, I want to get their latest album, and then you end up actually hearing the singles so much do you actually prefer the album tracks? You go, oh, why didn't they ever release that one? And anyway,
yeah, I can't remember the last time that. I mean, I think I'm at that old sort of fogey, old fart stage now, where I don't really listen to any new music or buy any like modern like music. There's the odd track that I really like, but it's probably from hearing it on from an advert or something. I don't. This is like the top 40 countdown on radio. I'm not sure anybody does these days, but yeah, I don't. I mean, I find out about who the big new artist is probably from some random BBC article that I've read, where they're like, so and so is going to be the new face of something. I'm like, who the hell is that? And I have to look him up. Yeah. It's some like 20-year-old who's had 6 hits in the last year or something. But that's the thing, isn't it? Like I read somewhere like you get stuck in a particular era. It's like a natural human thing. Like from the like everyone's favorite music era is from their ages of like 15 to 27 or something, and you don't budge from that.
100%. And
yeah.
I do make an effort. That there's a guy who I work with. I go, oh, what really cool bands are there? And he'll give me some. Sort of crazy name. Is that the name of the album? Was that the name of the group? And they go, oh, that's the name of the group. Right, okay. So I go onto my YouTube music account and I download their latest album. And to be honest with you, 7 times out of 10, he's actually suggested quite a good album. I thought, actually, I really like this. And, I'll listen through and, but then I have to really make a sort of an effort to do that, and all the people I think is here, I don't know, I don't know, people talk about Cardi B.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, I sound like a right old man, and I'm just thinking I couldn't name a Cardi B song.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever been. I've never been like music being is like a huge thing that I loved. It. I never really went to festivals. I wasn't into it. Music was never like a hobby for me to want to be able to do that stuff. I had bands that I liked and stuff like that, and I bought their albums, but it wasn't like my full time like thing that I was my favorite thing in the world. That would be like video games and films and stuff like that, and comics and stuff. So I don't think I ever was really someone that went out and said, I want to listen to some new music. Who are the good new bands? I'm going to go and check them out and buy their album and see if I like it. I was never like that. I would only ever pick up. I would pick stuff up from, from hearing it on like watching Top of the Pops, of course. Back in the day, probably picking it up on the radio, hearing about it from like I used to watch a lot of MTV and VH1 when we had Sky when I was a kid. And watch like Total Request Live and things like that, because you just put that on sometimes because there wasn't any good TV show on at that time of day. You could just put on, especially when you had like late 90s of Sky, it'd be like 3 or 4 different MTV channels and they're all good. They weren't just like the reality TV show one. MTV2 is the other reality TV shows. Maybe there's one that's like really obscure music. It was just general kind of a rock. One was a rock version of MTV. Like MTV2, I think, was alternative rock. Regular MTV it had TV show type shows, but it was still mostly music. And there was VH1, which was sometimes some earlier 90s stuff, 80s, 70s.
Well, I always prefer VH1 from what I remember. About sort of music TV. And what was the first album you ever bought, Trev?
Probably should be embarrassed a little bit, but this was probably History by Michael Jackson.
Oh, do you know what? What a good answer. Mine was Bad.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Jackson.
I love Bad.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's quite a very problematic person these days to talk about. But if you can, it's hard. But if you can, I don't know.
If you can see past the paedophilia, if you can see past that, he's all right.
There was a little bit of rape in there. You can sort of, try and not think about the rape.
If I had a small boy, I wouldn't let him hang out with him. Obviously, I can't because he's dead.
He definitely had something hanging out when he was with them. That's for sure. But but yeah, I mean, obviously, the early to mid 90s, he was still probably about the biggest artist around, really.
It was just. I still listen to his stuff today, and he made some. Amazing sort of groundbreaking music, and
What did you get bad on? Was it on a vinyl? Was it on cassette?
No, do you know what? I've never ever owned a record player. I was trying to think, what plays vinyls?
Neither
record
have I.
player.
I mean, my parents
it was always cassettes.
Yeah, that was the standard for me as well. Yeah.
It was always cassettes, and then a few years later, I managed to get a CD player, which was a big deal. And
they weren't really like, I wouldn't say CD players weren't. I mean, God, they were CDs, like music CDs started, I think, 1982. But they didn't become like ubiquitous, like where they were just like a throwaway everyday thing until like well into the 90s.
I think it was about 95. And I bought off my friend a Goodman's portable CD player. And if you ever, let's say portable, if you moved it a mere 2 millimeters, it would just skip. It was awful. I bought that, and it had 2 great big speakers, which you had to plug in as well. And that was brilliant. You could put your albums in there. But then it was, I think at the time, cassettes were always cheaper than what CDs were. But obviously CDs were better quality. But the thing I missed about cassettes was, when you press stop, to go and have your dinner, or, well, you just press stop. And then you come back, you're still at the same place. So you hear the whole album the same amount.
And you can get like
hate pressing play at the beginning, and you'd always get, it's that bloody song. I want to hear the 5th song. And of course you could skip to it.
If you had a fancy cassette player, you could actually have one that could detect like the gaps between the songs, couldn't you? I think it could sense the magnetism or something like, and it could like jump you to the. You have to still wait for it to forward on, to get to it. But it was the same for me because like cassettes were like the cheapest option normally. Still sounded pretty good, and also like portable. There were way more options for a portable player for the cassette.
Well, exactly. Player. Yeah, it was. It's like, and you can make your own tapes. I always went everywhere with my Walkman. And you listen to it on the way to school. You listen to it in bed before you went to sleep or whatever, and I just thought, absolutely, I sort of miss it. Well, actually, I bought a Walkman a couple of years ago, and it's. I think I went into work a couple of times with my headphones in and plugged into the Walkman. And
you're like a hipster.
And it was a real nice Sony Walkman. And it was a genuine. The sound was so much warmer. I can't describe it.
Yeah.
But this sounds so much. No, I wouldn't say it sounded better than what my iPhone sounds like. It sounds a lot more. Yeah, it sounds warmer. It sounds different.
Sounds less. It's like there's a certain analogness, isn't there, to this stuff that you can kind of feel. It's kind of difficult to describe it, isn't it? But a digital, super clean, technical copy of something just doesn't have that certain, I don't know, like like I say, warmness, like you say, is probably the best way to describe. I even like sort of that background sort of noise that you get, the sort of hiss, low frequency kind of hiss that you get with a cassette tape. That's kind of a nice, when you're in between tracks and you hear that, it's kind of a soothing, almost like, ASMR kind of thing, obviously you don't get with a CD or an MP3 these days. Well, you don't hear the gaps between things now. They're just files, right? You just skip between them.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I don't know. I used to like, you open the albums up and you get all the lyrics on the inside, and it was, I don't know, it was a really good experience. And I wouldn't sing along to them. That's maybe I did once or twice, but
own up.
But no, I certainly enjoyed. Cassettes and things like that. And I think a few times I've taken my little Walkman, I've actually opened the drawer to get it out actually into the car, put a tape on, and it's just, I don't know, just sitting there rather than just having the radio on or actually listen to a classic album. And cars always seem to have sort of good sort of loud speakers and just really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's I have a couple of like MiniDisc players as well, which I sometimes dig out, and if I'm going somewhere, I thought fancy a kind of a different experience of listening to music. And there's even some software that makes it easy to put sort of MP3s onto a mini disc. You know, if you've got a NetMD player, which is we can sort of use a data transfer of the audio and not manually record the audio like you would a cassette tape. It's kind of cool, and they're dirt cheap now as well. But yeah, I used to love I upgraded from cassette to mini disc in sort of the early 2000s, and that was mind blowing as well. And that was my primary way of listening to music until about 2000 or 2001 till about 2006-7, really. I think when I got an iPod Nano, I think that was the first time I went to a solid state device of some type, you know.
Because I never had an MP3, or maybe I did.
Well, there was I'd mates that had like iRivers. I remember the iRiver being one that was like a cheaper iPod clone.
I never had a cheaper one. What I did buy, and I thought I was bloody clever, I went, I don't know, Argos, wherever you bought them from in those days, and I was like, oh, there's a Sony mini disc, or, you know, not a mini disc, CD player, Discman. Yeah. And it played MP3 CDs.
Oh, right.
So
you could just
I thought that's a brilliant idea. So I copied, you know, you could get like 10 albums onto one CD, and then, you know, popped them in, because of course I had a computer to do that, popped them in, and after a while, for some reason, it sort of skipped every few seconds. I couldn't quite work out why, so I ended up just playing normal CDs on it.
Yeah, I think for me, like the early sort of solid state or hard drive players like iRiver and iPod and all that, the first few years they were kind of readily available. They weren't any better than my MiniDisc player. I mean, my MiniDisc player was smaller than most of them. Had a good battery that lasted a long time. And, you know, you had long play options on when you're recording to a mini disc. So I could put like, you know, dozens of you know, if you use like the long player, there was like LP2 and LP4 modes. You know, the quality obviously goes down a bit with both of them, but you could fit 3 or 4 albums on one disc. And the discs are small, so okay, you probably have to carry around 3 or 4 discs with you. But that wasn't a big deal then, especially if I was like going to uni or something, as I would have been in those days, or you know, sixth form. I had a bag with me anyway, so I just chucked it in there, and you know, I have the player itself in my pocket. And you know, when you always had the cool like remote control on the headphones.
I was about to say that they always had a cool sort of remote control which had the track which you were listening to, and that's really good.
You could control it from there. So yeah, and it wasn't until really got to the point where they could hold like so much, and it was so easy. And well, it wasn't until I started getting lots of music on my. I think when I got an iBook, the first iBook I got in 2005-ish, and iTunes on that was they were making a big push to get you to rip all of your music to your computer, because they would name, when you did it, it would name all the tracks for you and everything, and it would you don't have to do anything manual. And I was like, well, okay, now I've got all my shit on my computer, my iBook. I have to get an iPod now, and that's basically what did it for me. So yeah.
But I remember I used to have everything on Winamp. I used to love Winamp.
Yes, use that as well, yeah.
And you just, I don't know, you download albums or you'll rip them and you put them on there. And I just had a massive, great big list of, and I thought, so easy to manage this huge, great big list of songs.
I think there was a point when I was sort of juggling both. I would have a few dozen bits of music on my on a computer with Winamp, but the majority of my music would still be from buying an album in HMV, putting it on a mini disc, and having stacks of those. Yeah.
Well, then at that point, it was either okay, you'll download it illegally, and 9 times out of 10, I'll seem to get other albums, or you get a virus, or it took forever to download, or you could download the album and it will be like £12 or £9.99, but then you could sort of buy it in a sale for £4.99, and CDs at one point actually seemed like a lot better value than downloading albums. And now, you know, I had to get all my music as part of my subscription to YouTube, and you know, that's obviously
you don't really have to
value, but
you don't have to sort of go looking for it, do you? It's just you just tap it into the search field now, and bang, there's most likely they've got rights to it. There's the album that you wanted to get. It's like it's completely removed it. I mean, I've had like. Do you still have CDs? Have you got a collection still? Have you tried to rebuy them, or have you not bothered at all?
I've still got loads of CDs, but I don't know what I could play them in. I've played in my Xbox.
Yeah, I've still got lots of. Yeah, I mean, I've got like, I think I probably had a PS1 before I had like a dedicated CD player, to be honest. And I used to use that just through the telly, which probably sounded crap. I didn't have the one that had the audio, the L&R, the composite video output. But yeah, it probably sounded crap compared to like an actual system. But it was still great to be able to use listen to audio CDs. But yeah, no, I haven't got. I think my dad's got on my like CD collection. So I've got a handful of MiniDiscs. I did buy for shits and giggles. I did buy a cassette tape because I had. I picked up a cheap Walkman, because cassette Walkman for like, it was like tenner or something. I thought, I need to try it, see if it works. I didn't have any cassettes, so I bought Nirvana Nevermind.
Oh, what an album!
Yeah, obviously one more of my favorite albums. I bought it in different forms about 50 times, I'm sure, over the last 20 odd years. But yeah, because they're still making cassette tapes. Everyone sort of talks about how vinyl's made a big comeback, but kind of cassettes have as well, apparently. There's still tons of albums, like brand new and old albums being reissued on new cassettes. Like, I don't mean someone like recording it manually on some old recordable, TDKs cassettes or something, literally being produced by, record companies. But yeah, I picked up a brand new cassette copy of Nevermind. It was about 12 quid or something. It wasn't that expensive.
Really?
Which is probably cheaper than it would have cost in, 91 when it came out on a cassette. From Amazon. Yeah, it was like, it's great. It sounded great,
what did I do? Let's say when I bought this, it came in a couple of cassettes, and I wasn't really taken by those albums. And I went to a charity shop, and they had a little box in the back, and they had the Manic Street Preachers album. Cool. I don't know what it's called. Everything Must Go, maybe something like that. And it was like, I used to love that album, and it was 50p. It was a no-brainer. There's 50p, and
because you've got a solid copy of that now, haven't you? As opposed to just some files on a cloud,
Exactly. And I was absolutely chuffed to get that, and so it just sounded really great, and yeah.
I'm quite a big fan of movie soundtracks, and they're quite cool to get on cassette and audio CD, because I don't think they're a popular thing that people tend to buy these days. So I don't think they really tend to issue them, apart from to collectors and stuff in limited like runs and sort of shit like that. So I do find myself going on eBay and hunting down. I haven't actually pulled the trigger yet, but I'm thinking about just building up a little collection of movie soundtracks of sort of my favorite music, my favorite films, because some of those, I quite enjoy listening to like movie soundtracks outside, obviously, away from the movie itself. If I'm on a commute or if I'm just doing some work,
it's good because it sort of takes you through the movie, and you reminds you of parts of it. And the album that I constantly go back to all the time is the theme or the soundtrack to Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown.
Oh right,
it's such a good soundtrack. There's not a daft song on there. It's 10 out of 10. Absolutely.
Same with most Tarantino films, isn't it?
He takes a lot of time, working out, the good songs and things like that. And, sometimes, if you've got some just, bubblegum movie, they'll just put some, just who'd want that? But then sometimes so much effort goes into a soundtrack for an album.
My personal favorite would be, if I was going to pick one out, it would be Rocky IV.
Really?
Yeah, I really like that sound. I like the actual, like the non. I like the pop songs that are in it, but I also like the sort of the orchestral, although it's mostly I think it's all synthesizers, but the general background sort of music sort of stuff as well. That's a really good album as well. Rocky III's got a good album.
I might download that, because it was because it was a famous person who did. He did the music for that. He did things like Karate Kid and...
Yeah, there's the guy that did the soundtrack. I mean, also there's some pop songs, which are obviously the people that, the bands that did the pop song. But there's the chap that did most of the music was a chap called Vince DiCola. Okay. Most people would probably know him from that, or I think he did Karate Kid, and Transformers the movie.
Okay.
So that's got. I mean, the soundtrack to that is awesome as well. I mean, you wouldn't really think of it for a movie that's to sell toys, but it's got a really good soundtrack. But yeah, the same guy did Transformers and Rocky 4. So yeah, he doesn't really do. He kind of did those, and then that's it. He didn't really go and have a big movie scoring career. So yeah, it's he's kind of a bit of he's an interesting one. I'm actually looking him up now. I'm sure he did one other thing as well that I'm not thinking of. No, he didn't. He did Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever, Rocky 4, Transformers the movie, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan video game.
Okay.
Came out in 2016. Didn't even know that.
Ah, right. I was thinking music by Bill Conti.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he did the original Rocky. Yeah.
Fly Now, and
he did. Yes, and he did.
Conti also composed the music for the sequels: Rocky 2, 3, 4, and Rocky Balboa. Yeah.
I think that the traditional theme, was his, and then he also got reused, and he had Vince DiCola and all do the other bits of the soundtrack that didn't use that. But he also, I know Bill Conti did. He did Masters of the Universe.
Oh, really?
So if you remember that film, that the 80s film of the He-Man film, which is kind of crap but awesome. It's famous. It's got Courtney Cox in it, and Dolph Lundgren, of course, who was He-Man. He did the soundtrack, so that's really good as well. So yeah, that's another weird fact about composers.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, you are going to tell us about your PC. You've destroyed it.
Right. So I bought this PC I've got, and it's one of those PCs where it's like a laptop, but without a battery, with a big screen fixed to the top of it. And, it's got a nice processor. And I was always so annoyed how slow it was. Just once it all loaded up, it was fine. But it took 5, 6, 7 minutes.
So what? It's a laptop. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a computer, but the base of like the monitor is basically a laptop, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's got a mobile processor in it. So if you imagine a big screen with a stand, the actual stand is the
kind of like an iMac.
The computer. Yeah, like an iMac. It's like a PC.
It's an all-in-one unit thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought that, and I was
where was this from?
Yeah, bought it from Dell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was chasing some pavements, and I bought a Dell. Boom, boom.
So we did. That's very good.
Yeah. Anyway, so I bought this computer about 4 years ago, and I've always moaned about bloody hell, it always takes ages to load up. So
what do you use it for? Does it just work or?
Yeah, well, just I don't know. Do the podcast, look on the internet, edit a few videos. Just I don't know.
Watching Bake Off on iPlayer.
Book a day. Hey, what's that?
Watching Bake Off on iPlayer.
Exactly, Bake Off on iPlayer. So anyway, I was like, oh man, it's really slow. So I looked at the specs, and of course, it had a spinning hard disk. Your standard hard disk, and so I was like, okay, right. I want to swap that hard disk for a solid state one. So I watched videos. Okay, so I've got to buy the solid state hard drive. I've got to buy a cable. Then I've got to buy some software, and I've got to copy it over. I've got to do this. Okay, right. So I bought the hard drive, bought the cable, plugged it all in, downloaded the software, paid for the license for a year. So I can just copy everything over, so it'll all be the same. And it errored, and it errored again. So I watched another video, do it a different way, and then I thought, oh, hold on, I'm going to get. Let's see if a local computer shop can do it. And then, so I phoned them up, and they said, "Oh no, you can't do that. That's impossible." I said to the lady on the phone, "I've watched. There's all these people on YouTube that have done it. They've done the tutorial. It's just not working for me, though. It's just not working." So I was all a little bit sort of frustrated, and then she started telling me about how her husband had just got COVID, and I was like, "Oh, I'm terrible." Okay, well, let me. I'm gonna have one more try. So I booted it into boot mode or something, did another way with a USB stick, and then I did the transfer. The transfer took about 4 hours and it worked. So I was like, oh yeah, brilliant, it worked. So now I had to take the bottom of the laptop off, try and get to the hard drive, and that was quite challenging. Because it's not like a normal PC. You just take the side off, pull something out, put something in. This is like, oh my God, I'm not really good at engineering with iPads. So I sat down, took off all the screws, and then I managed to get to the case, to the cradle. So, oh my God, the hard drive's in a bloody cradle. And I had to just unscrew that, and I got the other thing in, and then I put it all back together, and it worked. And I was so happy. And the computer, it's like a computer for NASA now. It's so much quicker.
So you put a solid state drive in there?
Because I put a solid state drive. I should have done it ages ago, but they're quite cheap now. So
they put a crappy old whatever hard drive was in there, probably a low RPM one, cheap one,
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure that the hard drive didn't fail or anything, the previous one. But the moral of the story is, watch videos on YouTube, give it a go yourself, and you'll be surprised at actually sort of what you can do with it.
It's a pain when they put them in a cradle, isn't it? I remember when I've still got like a PS3 hard drive that is completely sort of fused to the cradle it came on because the screws are stripped. So I can't. There are ways obviously getting around that, but we have to get like power tools and stuff to be able to do it. But that's such a pain. If it was just a hard drive that you could just pull out, it just like plugged into the connector. That that would have been so much easier. I think it came out of a 60 gig PS3. They came in the fat PS3s. Actually, I think they all do. I think even the later PS3s, and they all have a little cradle thing that you have to attach the hard drive to. You can't just put it in.
I mean, I've got a 2 gig hard disk drive. If you want that for your PS3, Trev.
2 gig.
That's 2 terabytes. 2 terabytes.
Oh right, I was going to say 2 gig would be a bit crap. It's like one PSN game, perhaps. You'd be able to get on there.
That wouldn't be great, would it?
The really annoying is the Xbox 360 because they have their own. They're normal hard drives, but they have to go in these weird like cases. Because you've probably seen them when you work in the shop. But they're in these little funny cases that you have to go in, and you can't just put any old hard drive in and let it format it like you can with the PS3. You have to like hack the hard drive and do all kinds of stuff to get an Xbox 360 to like work with it. It won't just, you can't just put a blank hard drive in and it's just like, yep, cool, formatting it, great, you can use it now.
Stick a USB in and away you go.
You've got to like fart around to get them to work. It's such a pain. But I'm glad you managed to fix your computer.
Yes, I was really chuffed about that. But then it goes on to, I was just thinking to myself, what if I filmed that process of me repairing it and changing things on my computer let's be fair, it was the first time, actually it's the second time I've ever opened this computer and started, playing around with it and trying to take bits out and things. Let's say if I filmed that, do you think people would be exceptionally kind to me on the internet?
They would be extra kind.
They'll be supportive, wouldn't they? They would say, well done, we love your endeavour.
You might run into trouble, though, if it was a computer that was slightly less common.
We might do, we might do. So this Dell I've got, I'm sure I don't think it's, I haven't seen many others. It's just a Dell computer.
So you're probably okay,
I'm probably okay.
Yeah. But what we're getting to here...
What are we getting at?
There's a certain YouTuber, isn't there, who is... he's known for... tinkering with computers. He's a certain amount of bits as well. He's very specific about it, how many bits he is. And he's also a guy. So, that's kind of a thing to note. But he's been tinkering with a computer.
Less than 9 and more than 7.
Definitely, I mean, you kind of can narrow it down, really, can't you? Just like beat around the bush with this. Well, what was he doing, Stu? That's kind of annoyed.
Well, I set it all up. I like his videos. When they come up, I always find them very interesting. And to me, he knows a lot about computers and I enjoy watching his content. And anyway, so he got a phone call from a computer. An old computer shop in the southern part of his city in America, and he had to drive an hour to get to this place. Didn't
he complain about that as well? He did that. Yeah.
So he drove for an hour, all the way down there, and they said, "Oh, we found this really rare computer," and so he got this computer, got it all the way back to his house. Plugged it all in. Oh no, there's problems, and so he thought, okay, right, Well, there's two things that he did that I think got people a little bit sort of angry. He couldn't switch it on, so he tried to put some sort of not closed pegs, paper clips into the power supply socket to make it come to life.
Yeah,
and to me, it's like, oh god, that sounds a little bit dangerous. But I don't do these things, so I don't know. I don't know if that's completely crazy or if that's something you should do all the time.
Yeah, it was the IBM 7496 Executive.
Exactly. Yeah, so it was some computer. Sort of terminal. It wasn't quite a computer; it's more a terminal type.
Yeah,
thing.
It wasn't your regular home PC that IBM were also doing. Yeah.
There wasn't much information about them on the internet, so they're deemed as quite rare. So anyway, he blew up the power supply, and then the other thing he was trying to do was he wanted to get into the power supply or get into parts of the computer. I think it was the power supply. So he used a Dremel and sort of cut the security bolts in a certain way, so then he could take them all off. And I thought, that's a clever way of getting into it. But of course, the internet did what the internet does amazingly and just went crazy. Oh, this is the rarest machine in the world. It's a piece of history. You should not be doing that to it. Who would stick paper clips into it? You blew it all up. Oh my God, you're completely crazy. And then, so of course, he did this video.
You know what? I'm on it now. So I watch this video I'm like you. I like the 8-bit guy. When a video drops from him, I'll probably make a point of watching it. So I think I watched this. This was last month, the end of last month, when he released it, and it had comments under it when I watched it, and there was, as you say, the comments were basically what you were just describing. I've just gone on it just now, and the comments are turned off.
I think he got, because he did a video which was on his channel, but it was unlisted, so you had to have a link to it.
Yeah.
So not everyone could quite see that, and what he was saying is, now he's worked with computers for years and years and years, and putting the paperclip in is apparently quite a common thing, and he's done that 150 or 200 times before. And it tends to get the computer up and running, and he doesn't have a problem. So I'm like, oh, okay, right. He's that's fair enough. And then of course the other thing he was saying, well, I didn't have a special security screwdriver to get into the power supply to change it. So that's why I used the Dremel. And he goes, yeah, I know there are, you can get them for, $7 from Amazon. I can get them in a few days, but I didn't have to have this machine for very long.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he had lots of reasons for sort of his decision making, which to me actually sounded all quite reasonable. And people were saying,
when you're dealing with a community of computer nerds, yeah, you're asking for trouble.
He got like a Mac, the first Mac computer, that was still signed by Wozniak, and and then just threw, I don't know, a load of acid over it. That was, and
yeah,
and that's the impression that I got. And
like motherboards in the dishwasher
on Twitter and things like that. And I was, and what my point was, and I don't think I sort of mentioned this at the time, but I was very angry because, you know, someone's trying to sort of repair something and do a video on it, and then if it's not quite done the way that you would have done it, and if you had all the right tools, and if you had endless amounts of time,
yes,
okay,
fair enough. You can.
An example of my computer, and you know, I was doing it sort of sitting on my bed, and it was, you know, probably not the best way of doing it.
Post it on YouTube.
I didn't post it on YouTube, but if I did post it on YouTube, okay, and someone said, "Oh, actually, yeah, you should. The quickest way of doing this is to do that," and maybe give me good advice on actually how to do it better the next time.
It's actually funny because he had a video a few years back, which is actually quite good, where he was fixing the labels on some old games. You might have seen it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it was like WWF WrestleMania was one, and another one was like Pitfall for the Atari. And he basically said, he actually sort of preempted the comments, and he sort of said, "I know a load of people in the comments could be like, you're destroying the original labels. How dare you do that? You fucking idiot," or something. And he just said, "You know what? This is my shit. I get to do with it what I want. I'm sorry if it's not what you would do with it, but there's nothing I can do about that. This is what I want to do with my labels. I want to make new ones that are better quality. Deal with it." And I remember like Pat the Nez Punk, a few weeks later, had a video where he actually had talked about it. He's like, "Yeah, I can't believe he ripped off the labels. That is disgusting." And it's like, come on, man. It's like, you know, like it was like WWF WrestleMania and Pitfall with like common as balls.
Well, exactly.
I'm not losing them like anytime soon in terms of the amount of copies that are out there. So yeah.
I think what's Pat's point was, which actually I partly agree with him, was he was saying, well, actually, what if someone put a fake label onto a really rare game and then sold it?
That's a valid point, absolutely.
And I'm thinking, oh well, actually, yeah, but then what you just said, Trev, it was an already damaged copy of Pitfall, which there must be 5 million of those in the US.
Exactly.
And WrestleMania, which is probably a few less, but it's still not particularly the rarest game in the world. And then he merely repaired them. And I think if you went down to or put an advert on eBay and saying, "Oh, I've got a mint copy with a perfect label, you know, I'm selling this for $30 when normally they go for $10.
Yeah,
I think you could criticize him then, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking as well on if you do a search, like a Google search for the computer reset. The computer reset is the name of the store, the shop that he went to where he got this IBM executive.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then do a search for that along with the name of the computer, and you'll get like you'll land. One of the results is a Reddit thread where people are literally just having a complete meltdown about it. About this video. It's like there's one here that's the person says it's actually like it's listed as not safe for work. I have to click to get rid of the not safe for work thing because he's swearing in it or something. But it's saying I'm totally speechless about this. The computer was already not working, but the way he has handled it was beyond awful. And there's another Reddit comment with the title, "Can we forgive?"
Can we forgive? Oh my God.
Yeah, I know he messed up that last video. I'm upset by that. But I don't want this subreddit to devolve into a hate subreddit and I think it's important to forgive him. Please stop trying to cancel him. Using his views and issues and jokes he has made in videos. Please forgive and have faith in him. That's on the R8-bit guy subreddit.
I put a comment on his video regarding that, and I said something along the lines of, "I think you do great content. In all honesty, you're probably not the most engaging guy in the world, but you actually you do great content.
In all honesty, you're ugly, but hey, I like your videos."
Well, you know, I think if sometimes you get people on YouTube who will talk about, I don't know, train timetables, and you go, bloody hell, I'd love to go for a pint with that guy. He's bloody engaging and really knows his train timetables really well. What an interesting guy.
That guy.
you know, but then other guys who actually know a lot about a subject, which I believe he does. I believe he does. And, you know, he has got sort of something going for him. But I wouldn't say he is, I don't know, sort of Mr. Charisma.
If you're a big fan of the 8-bit guy, you'd be like, God, I really like that guy. I'm going to send him my Amiga 1200 for free. You know, which happens. You know, he's got actually in his one of his last videos was, God, we're just talking about 8-bit guy tons now. And again, we like you, 8-bit guy. We're just kind of
he's not going to listen to this.
Of course, you always have to put these disclaimers in, because when we do hit 20 million,
he'll come back and he'll be
all over us to come onto it. And someone will like do archaeology, like internet archaeology, said, oh yeah, on this date they slagged you off at timestamp 7 minutes. You know what happens. But yeah, one of his videos where he's building, you might have seen this one as well, where he's building an entire new extension to his house. Have you seen it? Where
I know. He made a. I don't. Did you? Oh.
Yeah, basically he's building a new studio. Basically, so I think he's using his basement in his main sort of house. He's got he's a well-off guy. I think, you know. I know people say American houses are generally bigger anyway. I'm not sure.
I think they're much bigger. Yeah,
they probably are. But so he's got a big house, a couple of cars. He does all right even before YouTube. But he's been doing. I think he films a show in his basement. He's got the most amazing cable management I've ever seen. I'm so jealous of his cable management. I'm always in awe of the shit that's on the wall behind him. He's got like an Apple airport base station with like an Ethernet switch or something underneath it, and the cables are really nicely like curled up and tied up at the perfect point and everything. I'm like, my cabling here is a complete joke. It's just like spaghetti, you know, the worst kind of nightmare spaghetti. But I think he worked in like IT support and stuff, so he probably has it sort of trained into him to do that stuff. But he's building an extension to replace the basement because he's run out of space in his basement. But I noticed like he kind of did a shot of his trying to show off, like, well, not show off, but just to show how difficult it is for him at the moment with the lack of space he's got. And he panned across, and on like the floor where I think his main desk is, where he films, I could be wrong, it might be another desk, but it's in his basement somewhere. He had like a pile of like 3 Amiga 1200s just piled up, like just there waiting to be like used. And we've talked before, obviously we talk about the Amiga a lot and how expensive like a 1200 is. But he's just got, just 3 of them just piled up, just on the floor. Because I'll just throw this one back on the pile. To be honest, like maybe he got sent those for free, because obviously they do these unboxings. And again, I say this word a lot. Well, I've said this before, but they get sent quite expensive stuff that
I love his unboxing videos, and he's going, I've been sent this. Well, I didn't want it.
Yeah.
And please don't send me anything else. And then he did a brilliant video. We're just slacking him off now.
Oh, this is getting better. So on the same Reddit, this is a dedicated 8-bit guy Reddit. I just scrolled a little bit down, and there's already a post saying Vice reported on the recent 8-bit guy events. And it is literally an article on Vice about him not opening a computer right. YouTuber Milkshake Duct. Milkshake Duct? That's a phrase? I swear a lot of these phrases I get from like, it's like it's Rich, Root at USA Rich. He'll suddenly start using a catchphrase like, what was the one I got? Simping for someone. I never heard of that before. And then there was a flurry of about 10 recent videos that he where he was like, oh, so-and-so is simping for this person. So-and-so is simping for this person. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? I had to like look it up. Apparently it means if you're some kind of fanboy for someone, you're fanboying for them and being lame and like overly like stupid or something about how much you like someone.
It's a real derogatory term.
Yeah, so I tend to get kept up to that on the new YouTube like catchphrases from Rich, because he'll suddenly start saying it loads from nowhere. So yeah, there was that. But anyway, Milkshake Duct, I guess, is another one I've literally just learned. YouTuber Milkshake ducked after incorrectly disassembling vintage computer. The 8-bit guy came under fire for his tear down of a seemingly rare old computer, but followers started unearthing much older, more controversial content.
Well, I think he's
backlash.
And as I said actually before this video,
oh my god,
I think he's got quite sort of, I don't know. He's a Republican. I think he's clearly a Republican. He's clearly right of centre, but aren't half of the Americans anyway.
There's a video apparently where he walked into just a convenience store with like a gun strapped to him, just casually going in to get some like ham or something.
You know what? He's one of those things. He's the oddest thing for myself, and I imagine you as well, Trevor, because you see a guy like that, and we get guys like that in the UK who are wandering around there. They know a lot about computers. He's very particular about this. He doesn't really care too much about his appearance, and but then you see them walking around with some sort of rifle or automatic machine gun hanging, and it's just like.
Yeah, it doesn't really go with the whole thing. I mean, like I don't know. This is going to be like the most stupid statement ever, but maybe like the kind of nerd vintage computer interest people group, fan base skews a little bit more left wing than and so therefore, if he does do something that's a little bit slightly more right wingy, which is obviously, loving guns and stuff, and obviously voting for the Republicans, they'll kind of lose their shit a bit. I mean, I'm obviously quite a bit of a lefty, unfortunately. Sorry, guys, any right wingers that listen to our show, please carry on listening. We want everybody to listen, but just throwing it out there. But I kind of take it with a pinch of salt when I see him with the guns. I'm like, hey, he's from Texas. It's kind of more as much of a cultural thing as it is. I like shooting people. I don't think it's like I like shooting people. I can't wait to shoot someone. It's just like if you're brought up being told guns are cool, guns are cool, guns are cool. You're not really gonna, it's gonna be grained in you. Unfortunately, I can deal with that. I don't like guns. I'd rather he didn't have them. But him and how many other millions of Americans, have that attitude. So. Yeah, I'm not going to be like, I don't know what, I saw him do a video on it. I'm not going to go on Reddit and be like, oh, we must ban him now and shit.
No, and if you go back to that video and you watch it, it'll have 500,000 views or whatever it's got. And then you go to Reddit, there's probably 100 people who are, oh, it's absolutely terrible what he's doing. And they'll reply to each other and they'll reply and then they'll reply and a few other people will reply. And then the whole thing is that actually 95% of people who watch that video, like myself, I watched that video and then when it finished, I went off and watched another video. It wasn't until I was on Twitter, I don't know, a few days later, and it was, oh, have you seen what the 8-bit guy? Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. It reminded me of the.
Oh, this is great! This is great. There's a video as well. This is from the Vice article links like other quote unquote bad things he's done. Some of it is a little bit silly, I have to say. There's one here that's like where he's just shooting an iBook G4 with a BB gun. Oh, this is on the 8-bit guy channel. It's not on like secret video. He's just shooting it. And in the comments, he says, this is him himself saying this. As I said in the video, I would have used real firearms, but I didn't want the police showing up at my house. Well, that video would have been him shooting an iBook with an actual like machine gun or something.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things. If he was like 22 years old and and was going around with I don't know, Jake Paul or whatever, going, hey, let's get the guns out, let's blow up some and then some old computers.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it would have actually been like, oh my God, that's a funny video. Look at those idiots blowing up computers with silly guns. You'll be like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was listening to we were talking about music earlier, listening to music while I was working. I was listening to Spotify, and this ad keeps coming up, and it's about it has a background sound of like, you know, windscreen wipers going on like a rainy day, and the voiceover's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with the day ahead of you, and then it carries on with the windscreen wiper sound, and he says, it's just not firing a machine gun out of a helicopter. Join the Royal Navy Reserves now. And it's like,
but I don't want to go. I actually saying that I like to go into a helicopter.
But it's like the context of that as well. Why are you going to fire a machine gun out of a helicopter? Generally, if you're in the Navy, you're probably trying to kill someone. Really,
but they're trying to get people to join the Royal Navy who are like,
you'll get to
there's something missing in my life. There's something missing in my life. What's missing? I'll tell you what's missing. I'm not out there just shooting guns.
I'm not in a war blowing shit up.
Oh, you know, that's what I'd love to do. I just want to shoot guns, and I want to have all the guns I can, and just do you know what? I want to live in America, because in America you got freedom, and you've got so, you know, you can have guns everywhere. Oh, I hate this country. You can't have guns.
Turn yourself into a gun if you wanted.
Oh my! It's just.
Yeah, or you can just stick to LGR. I don't think he has any guns.
Well, that's it. You know, I like LGR, and then, you know, there's lots of people on there that sort of repair, and that's almost like part of the fun. They do something wrong, and they do it again, and
a lot of the skills these people have. I mean, I've got several computers that need like to be fixed in some way, and I've got like Bob. I wish I was like as half as skilled as him, because I'm sure we'll have Bob on again, because the guy's like a legend. But you know, he obviously, I've got like a couple of like computers or consoles that need desperately to be recapped. I've got like my Turbo Express, that basically anything PC Engine related has to be recapped. Pretty much, they're all kind of crap. Well, actually, not. And the certain ones that have the CD based ones, like the PC Engine Duo, Turbo Duo, the Turbo Express, and they all need recapping, and I can't do any of that sort of work. So I have to pay someone to do it for me, basically. And I've got an Amiga 600 that needs recapping as well. I mean, I've been tempted sometimes to try and teach myself how to do it, but because you can get learn how to solder, or solder as Americans call it. And also, I watched this Does Not Compute. Don't know if you watched that dude.
He's. Hey,
it's Carlin. How's it going?
Yeah, he's. I've only just started watching it probably about in the last 3 months, and he's very interesting. And he's got a very engaging sort of unusual voice.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, and he does a lot of I'm really interested in getting really good Game Boy screens added into the original Game Boys and shit. He does a lot of that, and also I think there's another one that probably a bit more known. But all right, back again, Luke here. That dude, Luke Mose, he's awesome.
Does he still do videos?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, you know what? The YouTube algorithm is shit, isn't it? But I have so many that just I haven't watched them for a week. They like drop off, and it's got the point now where I'll see a video that moderately interests me, but I don't want to click it because I'll get absolutely inundated by that person's channel, and I don't want to. I just want to watch maybe this one video they make. But yeah, but that means sometimes when you haven't watched for a few weeks, will just drop off. I mean, like Review Tech USA, like I went a week not watching his videos, and it completely died from my home YouTube home screen. I had to go and dig out the link to get to him to see what his latest shit was. And the same with Luke Mose, yeah. But I don't often. I tend to only. I think the last video I watched, he got a Game Gear Mini. I think that was the last video of his that I watched. It was about a week ago.
Yeah, I was trying to get one of those.
Yeah, I thought it's weird, isn't it? I think we mentioned this when we talked about the Game Gear Mini. Like, I don't get the impression that it was ever successful in Japan. Yeah,
it's only really just come out, and
I mean, in the sense of the original Game Gear, I think it was a failure in Japan. I think it toddled along for a few years, but I think it was way more. Probably Europe was its most successful region. I knew a few people that had a Game Gear.
I certainly had one back in the day.
Yeah, I preferred it to the Game Boy. I loved it. It's one of my favorite consoles. But we don't. I would think Europe would have probably been the more it would have made more sense to release it here. But I guess there would be more nostalgia for it here. But it's probably because they think it's such a weird choice of design, like making it so small and shit. They probably think.
I think that's what's quite charming about it, and I don't know. I liked it. I did try to get one, but
it's only got to get hacked, doesn't it? And then you better whack every Game Gear game on it anyway, and you kind of defeat, one issue that people have with it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, do you watch the what's it? The Future Perfect or
the what?
Future.
This is a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
possibly. Have they been destroying old vintage computers as well, or something?
Future.
Well, I've got a stall for you here, Stu. Why are you looking for something on the internet, which is what I assume that you're doing?
Yes,
I am. Play some music.
The Retro Future.
Yes, I think I have watched that. Yeah. What about it?
It's just very good. He does lots of.
Okay. I was going to say, check out this video. He's done this.
He just does lots of stuff with Game Boys and things like that. And
there was a really good video on My Life in Gaming. Obviously, those guys are freaking amazing with the quality of the videos that they do. But it's kind of put me off getting a screen for like a modern IPS screen for a Game Boy because is it Try is the other guy? There's like Corey, the bold dude. There's the other guy. This one is mostly just Try doing a video, but he does it about a couple of months ago, I think it was. He does a whole half an hour on a Game Boy, replacing your original Game Boy screen. And he sort of came to the conclusion that they're all every option right now is kind of a bit crap and has issues.
Oh, really?
So waiting for another year and there'll be better screens. Yeah, there's things like screen tearing and odd little artifacts that you get with a lot of the screens. And I mean, I've got a couple of modded. I think I've got 4 original a couple of Game Boy Pockets and 3 original Game Boys, and I've got them all modded through a place called Deadpan Robot.
Okay.
But all they did was they just put a backlit on the. I didn't get a brand new like an IPS LCD screen put in. It's just putting a backlight on the original screen, which is
that's
great.
What I think I've got on my Game Boy Pocket.
Yeah, that's what I've got, and that's a great, brilliant upgrade, without doing anything else. If you get it biverted as well, you get that's also it helps with the blur that you get with the older Game Boy screens.
Yeah, it makes a much better contrast between the colours. But actually, talking about the Retro Future, he did a video about 3 weeks ago, and it just reminded me by looking on his channel. There's actually a version of Tetris that came out in Japan for the Game Boy, and everyone knows the music for Tetris, that song. Yeah. And but basically, there was a version of it which looks identical on the cover. You put it in, looks the same, except for a few slight different changes on the cover. And they only made about 25,000 of them. And it's version 1, where the version that everyone else knows is 1.1. And so this original version has different music on, like just all the music is just completely
the Game Boy Tetris, like an earlier
the Japanese version of Tetris. Now obviously it's iconic music that everyone can hum in their head for Tetris, for the Game Boy.
Yeah,
but there was actually a version of it which came out, and they only made 25,000 of them, which has different music. And it was just like playing that, and then cool. this other little tune just started up. I was like, what is that? And it was just so odd.
Yeah, that's kind of cool though. That's, I mean, if you might have got that copy back then without even realizing it, And
exactly. And I think they actually bought quite a few from Japan. I follow him on Twitter, and he bought quite a few of them from Japan to get this, version 1.0 version of the game. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to get that one now. But of course now, 67,000 people have watched this video, and they all probably go, oh yeah, I want to try and get that one, and push the price up a little bit.
You're going to try and grab that, yeah? You're going to get as many of them as you can.
Well, it's one you can only really get it from Japan, I guess, but there's no real way of telling unless you can look at the cover of it really, really closely.
I did have a mate of mine who, an old school friend of mine, Jamie. Hi, Jamie, if you're listening. He's a performance artist. And one thing that he did, one performance art thing that he did was he tried to buy every single Ram Man on eBay to try and drive the price up, as in Ram Man, the Masters of the Universe toy. And he ended up with like hundreds of them eventually. I don't actually know if he actually successfully drove the price up or not, but yeah, he was trying to make them rare.
Right.
To do that. But yeah, they're quite cheap toys, so you could get away with that. I'm not sure you better do it really with rare video games or even not so rare ones. How many copies of Sonic the Hedgehog would you have to buy before that became rare? Like
there was
million?
An episode. What was it? There was an episode of Sherlock, and it was quite interesting because there's always those games that are really
the one that's got the one that's Sherlock's played by Engelbert Bandersnatch.
That's no, the other one. No, Elementary.
The American one. The American one,
and it's actually quite good. I quite enjoyed it. Not quite as good as Sherlock, but it was still quite good. Anyway, do you know there's all those stories? Oh, we know that game, Celtics versus Lakers. There's only 7 of them, and each one costs £1,000.
Lakers versus the Celtics, on the Mega Drive.
So there was this rare game, and this was the story, that it was buried, somewhere, and there were 3 or 4 people trying to find this game because, it was a really good game, but they only ever released accidentally 7 of them, and then they got buried accidentally somewhere. Anyway, but this guy, he was, pretending to try and find this game, but he had a whole garage full of a pallet of them. And every 6 months, he would sell one of them. Oh, someone's just found one more. Oh, it's in perfect condition. He'll sell one for $2,000. But then if he sold all of them, they'll be worth, $20 each. So every 6 months, they would kind of find another one. And of course, from his big palette of games, this was obviously a fictional thing. Yeah. But, potentially that could happen.
That's just limited run games, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
I just make the one pallet and just sell the few that, they tell everybody to log in at, 1 a.m. in the morning, on Wednesday the 30th. Oh. And the pre-orders will be open for 10 minutes. And if you
sometimes all they do is take a download game you can buy for $7.99, and
it's just
and of course it's nice to have the box
about it,
the artwork, but they're not.
Yeah, there's no chance I'll be able to ever. I think there are people that just buy everything they release, don't they? Regardless of if it's like.
But a lot of the games they release they're not always the games I quite want to play, and
there's like a handful that I would actually buy. I think I was going to try and get Ukulele, so I like the game Ukulele. To get the Switch physical copy, and it was a limited run game, the physical copy. And there's like stupid things like recently they released like Shadows of the Empire or something, the N64 game. On an N64 cartridge, and it was like people went nuts buying it. And again, the usual limited run game thing happened; it sold out or whatever. But I'm like, that's a game you can get like in CEX. You can probably get it in the box for about 30 quid, for an original copy of it. And it's it's like it's a cartridge, so it's a mask ROM, so it's not going to get scratched or or disc rot or something. That's going to be just as good as. Probably a new mask, assuming they do use mask ROMs, or they're not. It's not just like some kind of like an SD card, with epoxy glued to a cartridge or something.
I wouldn't be surprised, but
I'm not trying to slag them off or anything, but that baffles me. And it wasn't like the ones that they was it Capcom re-released Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo
a few years ago,
yeah, and people went like berserk over that, and that is like the most commonest that and bloody like Mario World are probably about the most common Super Nintendo game. Okay, it's more difficult to get it in the box, but you could still probably get it for cheaper in the box than what that limited run, or well, actually it wasn't. It was just Capcom, wasn't it? Capcom sell it for. So yeah, it's just a weird world of. I I think if I was wanting to spend that sort of money, I'd rather spend it on, a console that I'm collecting for, like a Saturn game or something, or a Mega Drive game.
I mean, sometimes I appreciate them doing it, and if no one else is going to do it, they're not going to have, physical copies of games.
Yeah,
and
people are buying them,
and
it's working, So,
and it's one of those things. Is I know we always talk about Malcolm on this show.
Hey, Malcolm.
Hello, Malcolm, friend of the show. We always talk about Malcolm, and he loved Night Trap. And so he got I think it was limited run, did a copy of Night Trap for the Switch.
That's the one limited run game that I actually own is Night Trap, but it's the PC
is it really?
Version. I've got the big box PC version that they made. Night Trap did come out for the PC in the 90s, funnily enough, when it started going multi-platform after the Mega CD version. But that's like super hard to get that. So they did a PC of the re-released PC game, but I didn't get it from limited run. I bought it on eBay, and obviously thinking, that's a terrible thing to do with limited run games because it's people flipping it and charging. It was like 30 quid, so I think it's exactly what it cost when it was on there. So I think it's just one that people like ever bought 10 copies of this, thought, I better flip this for loads of money, and people weren't buying it, and I caught it when he was just selling it for probably what he paid for it. So that's the only game I've got that is limited run. It's probably the way to do it if you have to pick it up afterwards. Wait and see if they're not selling, and maybe someone on eBay will.
So I think you can go to the limited run website, and they do have older versions of games that didn't all sell out on day one. They are available.
Yeah, not many, but there is a few I think that you can still buy. Yeah, but the ones that anybody would be really interested aren't like some kind of anime, Japanese dating sim novel thing, which a lot of this stuff or an indie game, isn't it? It's an RPG, an indie game, or a Japanese dating sim,
or a retro platformer.
Yeah, a Metroidvania.
Yeah,
whatever that is. Be one of them. But if it's something like, a bit more... I mean, there was one cool one, which was the Mega CD version of Secret of Monkey Island. I thought that they did that about a few months ago. Again, it just sold out and people went nuts over it. I mean, that's one that I would think I would be interested in. Again, that's a game... It is difficult to get an original copy, but... It's probably not that much more, maybe a bit more expensive, but it's probably easy to get the original copy now because that one sold out that they released. And I guess I don't know if they sell pressed CDs, they must do. Right?
It must be down the route of. I actually think I haven't really got too much of a problem with sort of limited run games, and I mean some of the choices of games wouldn't be the games that I would want. But then they know their market, and it's better to have a game out there than not. It's better that it's physical than it's not. So I'm up for that.
I'm with you on that one. We'll leave them in peace to go about, selling stuff in a very extremely limited run. Hence the name, limited run. You can see what they did there. Exactly. No, they weren't lying with that name, were they? Anyway, right, we've gone way over an hour. People are getting pissed off. Their commute is nearly over, if it's presumably an hour, and they don't want to listen to us anymore. What they want to know right now is, I suppose they would know this stuff anyway because they're listening to it, but maybe they're not. Where would they? Where do you find us?
We're all over Twitter. All over Twitter. All over Twitter. We're all over Console Shock on Twitter.
We haven't got a Reddit
we're all over
like
YouTube.
We haven't got a Reddit yet, like 8-Bit Guy has.
No, someone's probably created one.
Yeah, you've made it.
I doubt they have. All over YouTube. We've got a website, consoleshock.net, and our Facebook page as well. So
we've got the tweet
on there. Interact with us.
Got the tweets.
We love hearing your comments. Sorry.
We've got the tweets, we've got the Facebookings, we've got the Stitchings, we've got the iTunes things.
We're on TikTok.
Are we on
see me and Trev dance?
I think we're about 20 years too old for that, aren't
I think we are.
Banned soon anyway, so cool. Well, thank you everybody for listening to episode 71. We'll be back again with another one, hopefully in the next few weeks. And thank you for listening, everyone. Take care.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.